to come to an interesting topic, okay? Theme parks, right, and amusement parks, I'm all fired up about. I'm one of the world's leading experts in it. I'm going to be honest with you and say it's just the opposite with cruise lines. In fact, most of you in here probably have more cruise line experience than I do. I've never taken a cruise. I know people over there are like, oh, you got two heads or whatever. There's a reason why my wife gets seasick very easily, so I can't talk her on to going on a cruise with you. So I don't know, maybe at some point I'll take my dear mother. She loves to cruise, and so maybe I'll do that. So when I teach this, I teach a lot of theory, and I actually count on a lot of the class to help me out here, because if you've ever taken a cruise, please raise your hands. Yep, that's what I figured. Okay, so you guys have more cruise experience than I do. Kind of, okay? So we're going to talk today about cruise lines. I will say this, though. Although I've never taken a cruise, I'm very knowledgeable about nautical operations, okay? I actually, at one point, had a captain's license. And I drove boats or piloted boats for a living in college. So I know about nautical operations, I just don't know about pleasure cruise, okay? So when we go back in history and we talk about cruise lines, the first thing to know, and you might see this again, is that cruise lines weren't for fun. Originally, they were for transportation, getting people from point A to point B. And it's kind of like the reverse evolution of the airlines, right? The airlines used to be enjoyable, and now they beat you and drag you off the airlines. So cruise lines weren't really concerned about customer service back then. Cruises were really just getting you from point A to point B. And they treated you probably just like they treated cattle. Okay? We're going to take you from here to there. And if you enjoy it, that's fine. If you don't, it doesn't matter to us. Our only concern is getting you from point A to point B. You with me so far? I mean, think about the Mayflower, right? You know, the Pilgrims didn't get on the Mayflower and said, oh, this is going to be a pleasure cruise. It's going to be a lot of fun. No. They needed to get to America, and they were probably sick as dogs all the way through because they'd never been on, you know, the ocean before. But the idea is we get you from point A to point B. All right. The first cruise ship in the world was the Peninsula and Oriental Steam Navigation Company in 1844. And when we qualify it, we say, because there were cruises before that, but they were on an individual basis. I mean, think of it as a charter or a custom trip. This was the first regularly scheduled run from point A to point B. Okay, does that make sense to you? It was regularly scheduled. It wasn't as needed. The first American cruise was in 1867 on a paddle wheel steamer known as the Quaker City. I know, really interesting stuff, right? But what do you need to know from this? First cruise lines were not about having fun and pleasure. They were just about transportation, point A to point B. Okay? Things changed throughout history. The cruise lines, because they were moving people from point A to point B, figured out really quick that rich people would pay for upgrades to their accommodations. And so we kind of transitioned from being, okay, you just go to your cabin and stay there until we get to your destination, to let's try to get rich people to come on and pay for upgraded services, upgraded rooms, amenities, meals. And I always think of, and rightfully or wrongfully, the Titanic. Anybody seen the movie Titanic before? And you saw the opulence of the first class passengers, right? It was really, if you had the money, it was a pleasurable experience. But again, you were still trying to get from point A to point B. If you were poor, you were down in what's called steerage, and they basically locked you down there and you weren't allowed to come up and enjoy, you know, the fine accommodations, all right? So, World War I, remember we talked all about the soldiers in World War I? You know, before that, America kind of kept to itself, but as we entered the world stage because of World War I, there was a lot of transatlantic crossings. No airplanes back then. It was all done by steamship, okay? And, like I say, cruises started to become fashionable. It was very fashionable, again, think Titanic, to take a cruise ship over to Europe and spend a couple weeks or months in Europe and then take the ship back, okay? And as you can imagine, because of all the submarine warfare, cruise lines saw, and it says a slight decline, a big decline during World War II, because it wasn't safe to travel the seas, okay? And so, from the late 50s, cruise ships declined with the popularity of air travel. Remember the fourth age of tourism, the jet airplane? Why would you take a cruise ship that takes you 3 or 4 days to cross the ocean when you can get there in roughly 11 hours, right? And would you rather spend 3 or 4 more days on the boat or 3 or 4 more days in Paris? Yeah, most people would say, hey, I'm going to spend 3 or 4 more days in Paris. Get me there quicker so I can begin my vacation and enjoy it sooner. And so really, the 50s saw the cruise lines almost go out of business. Okay? But that's because cruise lines pictured themselves as transportation. So we already talked about Aaron Spelling, right? And his contribution. Another guy you need to know is a guy by the name of Ted Aronson. Not as famous as Aaron Spelling, but Ted Aronson started Norwegian Caribbean Lines, NCL, right? Anybody ever sail NCL? Okay, they've been around for a long time. And he transformed South Florida's cruise industry. He came up with this concept, okay? He called it the cruise to nowhere. Let me say that again, the cruise to nowhere. Remember, originally cruise lines went from point A to point B. Well, Aronson said, we're going to give people on a cruise line and they go from point A around back to point A again. You get it? Right? Instead of going from A to B, one-way trip, it's a round trip. Now we'll stop, you know, in the islands and we'll do all kinds of recreational things. But you will disembark the same port that you got on the cruise ship. And the idea is we go from being a transportation to a floating resort. And again, between Ted Aronson and Aaron Spelling, right? 1977, the Love Boat took the cruise line business from almost being extinct to what it is today, to the fact that more than 50% of you raised your hands when I said, who's taking a cruise? Okay? So again, you know, and this is a great story because it just shows you that people are visionaries out there, that they can take an industry that, for all intents and purposes, was dead and resurrect it to the point now where just about everybody wants to take a cruise. It's kind of like Starbucks. What is it? Howard Schultz? Who's the Starbucks creator? Howard Schultz? The Starbucks guy. He took coffee. Okay, when I grew up, there were no Starbucks. Coffee was something that you endured. It didn't taste good. It was like medicine. People drank coffee. My dad was a cop. And he drank coffee to basically work the night shift and stay awake. You went to 7-Eleven or someplace, you paid 10 cents, and you got a cup of kind of bitter, black, hot liquid, and it was magic because you drank it, and it kept you awake. You didn't enjoy the taste of it, that's why you put tons of cream and sugar in it, but it kept you awake. Starbucks, God bless them, whether you love them or hate them, reinvented the concept of coffee. So now when people drink coffee, they don't think, oh, I'm drinking it to take my medicine and stay awake. They think of it as hedonic or pleasurable. This is something that I enjoy. That's why you pay $5 for it when, not too long ago you paid 10 cents for it, right? Who drinks coffee because, hey, I like it, right? Exactly. If I would have asked that question 30 years ago, no one would have raised their hand. So again, that's, as we talk about, enterprise and the free market, there's something out there waiting to be rediscovered again. So hopefully my entrepreneurs in the audience, you'll be like Starbucks, or you'll be like Norwegian Caribbean line and reinvigorate or reinvent the industry, okay? All right. What's the name of the Love Boat? It was called the Pacific, no, it was called the Princess. It wasn't the Pacific Princess. It was just the Princess. All right. So, what's cruising? Today, it's basically seaborne tours for pleasure, relaxation, or sightseeing on a cruise ship or a pleasure craft. I think, and again, you guys help me out here, I think one of the reasons that cruises are so successful is that it is an all-inclusive package. Includes the trip, accommodations, catering. So you basically, your thought process, and I do a lot of consumer behavior, is okay, I know what I'm paying for my vacation. I know what I'm getting, right? And there are add-ons, like you can do, these other off-boat activities. But for the most part, you say, okay, here's my budget. It fits my budget. Boom, there I am. Okay? So this is the part where I want to hear from you all. Who's my cruising experts out there? Want to talk about? Yeah? How many times have you been on a cruise?
4 or 5.
Okay. You obviously like it, right?